My family sued me, claiming I faked my military service. You can't lie about a soldier who saved lives, the judge declared. Now, they are being sued. I was sued by my family for being a phony veteran. He was never in service. He made it up. In court, my mother growled. I didn't respond. I simply observed the judge. She carefully got to her feet and removed her robe. 5 feet of industrial carpet separated me from my parents as I sat in courtroom 14B, watching them attempt to erase me. My name is Wesley Thorne. Overhead, the fluorescent lights hummed. That particular frequency that, if you listen for too long, causes your teeth to hurt. My mom refused to look at me. My father's jaw was clenched so tightly that I could see the muscle leaping beneath his skin as he gazed straight ahead. I was being sued for fraud. Like a shark circling its prey, their lawyer, Victor Thornton, a slick bastard, paced in front of Judge Rachel Bennett's bench. His fancy outfit, gold cufflinks gleaming in the light, and his shoes clicking against the tile with every deliberate stride. The sort of man who ruins people's lives before lunch for $500 an hour. Your Honor, Thornton said in a tone reminiscent of a courtroom. This man has fabricated an entire military career. He's stolen valor, forged documents, and collected veteran benefits he doesn't deserve. With my hands folded on the defensive table, my back straight, and my eyes forward, I remained mute. Thornton produced his proof with dramatic accuracy. The evidence table was covered in glossy picture albums. Holiday greetings, Hampton's family getaways, and Luke's football trophies arranged like soldiers. Not one military picture, he declared. No deployment pics, no simple training photos, nothing. He supplied paperwork that looked official. We've submitted requests to public records, no discharge papers, no DD 214 form. The Department of Veterans Affairs has no standard file. Nervously, my court-appointed lawyer, Ronan Spencer, a weary public defender handling 50 cases, shuffled her notes. Having only met me twice, she was unsure of how to respond to my silence. This is delusion, Thornton declared as he turned to face the judge. A son desperate for attention, constructing an elaborate fantasy to exploit state resources. At that moment, my mother leaned forward, her pearl earrings gleaming. Her voice was as sharp as glass, and her Chanel outfit was flawlessly ironed. He didn't ever serve. He invented everything. I didn't blink or recoil. Silence, they believed. Implied guilt. They didn't realize that when mortars are dropping and someone is bleeding to death in your arms, the only sound that matters is the medevac bird crossing the ridge. That's when you learn to be silent. Understanding your position in the hierarchy was essential to growing up in the Thorne household. With a gorgeous smile that made country club moms clutch their pearls, my brother Luke was the golden kid. He was 6'2", a quarterback for Westfield High, and a Cornell business degree holder. My parents paraded their son at fundraisers, the first person they brought up when someone inquired about family. I was the child who didn't pretend to be enthusiastic for appearances, the afterthought, and the one who asked too many questions. When I was 16, I wondered why, if my father called troops government welfare cases during supper, we were giving to a veterans charity. My mom's expression froze. Don't embarrass us, Wesley. I said that Luke's business endeavor seemed like a pyramid scam when I was 17. I spent 3 days locked out of the house. They informed my neighbors that I was discovering myself when I completed the paperwork the day after I graduated and enlisted at the age of 18. They didn't bring up the Army once. They never once inquired as to my destination. At the recruitment office, my father gave me a $200 bill. Don't expect us to bail you out when this doesn't work. That was the end of it. Just a sharp Franklin and a warning, no pride, no worry. In June, I shipped to Fort Benning. Heat from Georgia has the potential to melt asphalt. Drill instructors were yelling till their voices broke. I gained the ability to shoot, march, live off of 4 hours of sleep, and be spiteful. Basic training was a nightmare. Individual advanced training was worst. However, I felt like I belonged anywhere for the first time in my life. I was the disappointed kid from Connecticut. But that didn't matter to the Army. Whether I could do my job was important to it. I was deployed by October. Afghan province of Kandahar. Unable to identify which unit. Classified as of yet. We can't discuss what we did. Bound by an NDA that carries a federal prison sentence. I can describe the heat as being like inhaling through a furnace. It was a harsh and magnificent landscape. Mountains capable of concealing an army. Valleys turned into cemeteries. We handled security, conducted night operations, and performed tasks that aren't discussed during homecoming parades. I never received a response to the 3 handwritten letters I sent home via APO channels. Not when I obtained my combat action badge, nor when I became a specialist. Not after the convoy was struck, and I was hospitalized for 2 weeks in a field hospital due to a concussion that caused my world to tilt sideways and shattered ribs. Hope you're well. The club's holiday gala raised $45,000 this year. Very proud of Luke's promotion. My mother wrote in her flawless calligraphy on a generic Christmas card that you buy in bulk. Mom. Just status updates as if I were a distant acquaintance. No love. No, miss you. I returned home after 3 years. First, Walter Reed Medical Center. The leg that no longer wanted to bend properly required 8 weeks of physical therapy. A C-130 to Muir Air Force Base came next. No one was picking me up, so I took a Greyhound bus to Connecticut. On a Tuesday afternoon, I arrived at the family home. October, with leaves turning crimson and gold as if the world were slowly burning. My mother glanced up and down at me as she opened the door halfway. It was, "Oh, you're back." No tears. No embrace. I was just shocked that I'd had the gall to live. "No, thank God you're alive." My dad was at his office. Seldom looked up from his computer. "You need money?" "No." "Good. Luke's staying in the guest house while his condo is being renovated. You'll have to figure something else out." That night, I slept on the couch. Departed prior to sunrise. Never returned. In New Haven, I discovered a studio apartment. 400 square feet. It was my radiator, but it clanged like church bells. My documentation for veteran benefits was sent to a downtown legal aid clinic. Isabella Rodriguez, a paralegal with a lovely face and weary eyes, guided me through the VA maze. She wrote, "You've got a Bronze Star. After looking over my service summary, why didn't your family?" They don't know what. My records are classified. Operational security. I can't talk about most of what I did, so to them, I just disappeared for 4 years. Isabella gazed at me. "That's insane." I gave a shrug. It is what it is. My application for disability was accepted by the VA. 15% for the PTSD diagnosis I received at Walter Reed, 12% for hearing loss, and 35% for the leg. Not very much. Enough to keep you alive. I was hired at a resource center for veterans. Aided other men in utilizing the method. Hear their tales. I didn't share mine. I discovered how to be silent, modest, and unnoticeable. However, survival somehow offended my parents. As if continuing to live was an insult to their story that I was doomed to fail. On a gloomy January morning, the lawsuit arrived. Heavy envelope, certified mail. Wesley R. Thorne vs. Archer and Sloan Steele. 2025 CV0847 is the civil action number. With my hands shaking and my coffee growing cold, I stood in my kitchen reading the complaint. The plaintiffs claimed that the defendant had committed a number of fraudulent acts, including making false claims to have served in the U.S. Army. Second, making up a post-traumatic stress disorder diagnosis. 3. Illegally receiving 2 years' worth of veteran benefits totaling almost $20,000. 4. Using those false allegations to damage the family name. The list continued. Victor Thornton, a lawyer, signed 6 pages. I ought to have been incensed. Rather, I chuckled. The sound reverberated off the flimsy walls, harsh and shattered. I wasn't just forgotten. They had changed who I was. Erased 4 years of my life. Created lies out of my scars. Completed my service. I put everything I had attempted to preserve, and everything I had sacrificed into a scam. It buzzed on my phone. The public defender assigned to my case is Ronan Spencer. "Mr. Thorne, we need to meet. This is bad." In desperation, Ronan's workspace smelt like stale coffee. Every surface was piled high with files. A potted plant beside the window is slowly fading. She appeared worn out. "Okay, walk me through this. You served?" "Yes." "You have proof?" "It's classified." "What does that mean?" "My unit operated under sealed protocols. My records are redacted. Even my medical evacuation papers only list a code designation." Ronan massaged her temples. "So, you have no proof?" "I have a DD 214, but the details are blackbarred. National security exemption. And you can't declassify them. Not without Pentagon authorization, which takes months if they approve it at all." Ronan reclined. There was a squeak in her chair. "Your parents have money?" "Yes. Thornton's a shark. He specializes in reputation cases. High-profile families protecting their image." She produced a file. "They've submitted 50 affidavits. Country club members, family, friends, business associates, all saying they never saw evidence of military service. Because I never told anyone." "Why?" "What was I supposed to do? Show up at their charity galas in my uniform, beg them to acknowledge me?" Ronan remained silent. "Then this is going to trial, and without documentation, we're going to get destroyed." In February, the deposition process began. Victor Thornton's office had original artwork on the walls, plush seats, and floor-to-ceiling windows with views of New Haven Harbor. I was provided sparkling water by the receptionist. In his 50s, Thornton had silver hair, was immaculately dressed, and had a smile that seldom extended past his eyes. "Mr. Thorne, thank you for coming." Like a monarch on a throne, he sank into his chair. The reporter for the court had already begun typing. "Let's start simple. You claim you served in the United States Army from June 2021 to September 2024. Yes. Where? Afghanistan. Can't specify location. Operational security." He wrote, "How convenient." In his note. "And your unit? Classified. Your commanding officer? Classified. The base you were stationed at? Classified." Thornton grinned. "Mr. Thorne, you understand how this sounds?" I remained silent. Across the table, he slipped a document. "This is a letter from the Department of Defense. We submitted a FOIA request for your service records. They confirmed. There is no Wesley R. Thorne listed in general enlistment databases for the dates you claim. Because my records are sealed or because you never served?" Ronan stepped in. "Objection." Argumentative. Thornton dismissed it. "Let me ask you this, Wesley. Can I call you Wesley?" I didn't respond. "Why would your parents lie? What do they gain from this lawsuit?" "You'd have to ask them." "I have. They say you came home 4 years ago after traveling around Southeast Asia, working odd jobs, and started claiming military service to access benefits. They say they tried to intervene, get you psychiatric help, but you became hostile, threatening." My stomach fell. "That's not true. They have documentation, emails to a family therapist, text messages expressing concern, a formal request to the VA questioning your eligibility." He slid other papers over. I looked at them. My father's signature. My mother's penmanship. For 2 years, they had been constructing this case. The date of the hearing was March 15. I had 6 weeks. Ronan made every effort. Due to classification procedures, she was unable to get in touch with the Pentagon. She contacted the VA. They verified my benefits, but they were unable to divulge information without permission. She located members of my basic training unit. 2 were sent abroad. 1 had his own VA nightmare to cope with. 1 was too disturbed to speak clearly. All the doors shut. Ronan stated, "We need character witnesses, during one of our preparation meetings. People who knew you before, during, after. I don't have anyone, friends, teachers, employers. I left for basic training the day after graduation. Haven't been back to Connecticut much since. The people I served with. I can't contact them without violating security protocols." Ronan appeared to be about to cry. "Wesley, they're going to win." I was aware that she was correct. At each pretrial motion, my parents were present. Archer Steele in fitted wool, Sloan Steele in luxury clothes. They appeared to be worried parents who had been harmed by a disturbed kid as they sat in the gallery. Luke attended a hearing, sat in the rear, and avoided eye contact. Following my cornering of him in the garage. "You really think I made this up?" He refused to give me a look. "I don't know what to think, Wesley. You're my brother, and you disappeared for 4 years. No calls, no visits. Then you show up claiming you were some secret soldier." At last, he looked directly into my eyes. "It sounds insane. It is insane. That's why it's true." Luke, however, simply shook his head. "Mom and Dad just want to protect the family from what? The truth." He turned to leave. I was left standing beside my damaged Honda, my hands trembling with uncontrollable anger and my legs hurting. The trial began on March 15th, a Wednesday. The fragrance of ancient wood and floor wax filled the courthouse. Judge Rachel Bennett, a 50-year-old with keen eyes and a reputation for managing a tight courtroom, presided. After a remarkable career as a prosecutor, she was appointed 2 years ago. I had been cautioned by Ronan. Bennett is tough but fair. She doesn't tolerate games, but she also doesn't tolerate shabby stories. Just answer honestly. Don't embellish. Slowly, the courtroom filled up. Ronan and I are on one side, while my parents and their legal team are on the other. There are a few people in the gallery watching the court, a few journalists, and someone drawing for a local news website. Judge Bennett came in. We sat and stood. Case number 2025, CV0847. Thorne versus Steele. Mr. Thornton, opening statement. Thornton got up with ease and assurance. He depicted a confused young guy who was unable to live up to expectations, who vanished for years before reappearing with intricate tales and the allure of a scam artist. "The evidence will show," he said, "that Wesley Thorne never served a day in uniform, that he has defrauded the government and embarrassed his family through a calculated campaign of lies." He took a seat. Ronan got up. She made a simpler, Shorter opening. The evidence will show that Wesley Thorne is exactly who he says he is, that his service is real, and that his parents, for reasons we may never fully understand, have chosen to deny it. Then the testimonies started. First, Thornton contacted my mom. As if accepting a prize, Sloane Steele took the stand, poised, graceful, and empathetic. Mrs. Steele, can you describe your relationship with your son? It's been difficult. Her eyes were dabbed. No real tears. Wesley has always been troubled, rebellious. He resented his brother's success. Did he tell you he was joining the military? No. He left home suddenly. We didn't hear from him for months. And when he returned, he showed up at our door claiming he'd been in Afghanistan, but he had no proof, no photos, no stories he could actually tell. It was all vague. Suspicious. Did you believe him? We wanted to. She glanced at the jurors, but the more we looked into it, the more contradictions we discovered. Piece by piece, Thornton presented the proof. Lists of guests and photo albums from family gatherings during my alleged deployment. Members of the country club have made statements, and my high school guidance counselor wrote a letter characterizing me as prone to hyperbole. It was disastrous. Ronan did a cross-check. Mrs. Steele, did Wesley send you letters while he was gone? A few. Did you keep them? No. Did you respond? Take a moment. I don't recall. You don't recall if you wrote your son back while he claimed to be in a combat zone. It was a confusing time. Did you ask him about his service when he returned? He wouldn't talk about it or you wouldn't listen. Objection. Sterling stood up. Judge Bennett said, sustained, but she glanced at my mother. My dad was the next to testify. Archer Steele is a cornerstone of the community, the CEO of a local investment firm, and a board member of 3 NGOs. Compared to my mother, he was more clinical and colder. Wesley has always struggled with reality, he said. This military fantasy is just the latest illusion. You filed a complaint with the VA? Yes. We believe he fraudulently obtained benefits. Why would he do that? Money, attention, a way to justify years of aimless drifting. Ronan hardly scratched the cross. My father was too slick and well practiced. Sterling gave Luke a call. My brother tugged at his tie and appeared uneasy. Did Wesley ever mention military service before he left? No. Has he shown you proof since returning? He says it's classified. Do you believe him? A long silence. I don't know what to believe. Sterling then called Dr. Lawrence Patton, a psychiatrist who had studied case-related literature but had never met me. In your professional opinion, doctor, is it possible someone could fabricate a military history? Absolutely. It's called pseudologia fantastica, pathological lying driven by a need for significance. Could someone experiencing this condition pass initial VA screening? Potentially, especially if they've researched extensively and can mimic symptoms. Could they fake PTSD? It's documented in medical literature. Ronan protested. Your Honor, Dr. Patton has never examined my client. Go to wait. Bennett, the judge, made the decision. Continue. We took a lunch break. I was unable to eat. My hands continued to shake. Ronan made an effort to be supportive. We have our turn this afternoon. I'll put you on the stand. No, Wesley, you have to testify. I can't talk about most of what happened. Every answer will be classified, or I can't discuss that. It'll sound like I'm hiding something. You are hiding something. Your actual service. Because I legally have to. She reclined. Then we're done. Sterling's going to argue that your silence proves guilt. Judge Bennett will have no choice but to rule against you. I gazed at the cafeteria table in the courthouse. At my image on the scuffed surface. I won't break my oath. I muttered. Even to save myself. Then Ronan was silent. That's incredibly stupid. Yeah, probably. The court met again at 1:30 p.m. Sterling started his last remarks. He was destructive and methodical. He took the jurors through every bit of evidence, every inconsistency, and every instance in which I remained silent. How can we trust someone who can't even prove where he's been? He said. Who hides behind classified at every question?